Are you dreaming of owning a beach property and having someone else pay for it? Then watch this video. Hi everybody, thanks for tuning into my channel Living in Tampa, where it's my goal to show you everything you need to know about eating, sleeping, playing, and living in the greater Tampa Bay area. Hey, if it's your first time to my channel, could you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, ring the little bell so you'll be notified every time that I release a new video. So today's video, I'm going to cover a question that I get asked a lot. I get people calling me every day and I love it. I love helping people who are thinking about buying a home here in the Tampa Bay area and making the move to the nation's most beautiful beaches. I do get asked a lot about buying a VRBO or Airbnb type of property, like a short-term rental kind of thing, the best way to go about doing that. I get asked that question a lot, so I thought I would go ahead and make a video and cover some of my top tips and tricks for owning a vacation property and having someone else pay for it. So let's get started. Tip number one is know your financing options. So if you are looking to buy a second home or a beach property, a VRBO, Airbnb type of thing, you definitely need to know how you're going to pay for that. And you do have a couple of options. I'm going to cover both of those, but first I do want to say I am not a mortgage professional, so the information that I'm presenting right now could change in the future. So currently, if you are looking at buying a second home, you have a couple of options. You can finance this as a second home if the property is at least 100 miles away from your primary residence. There are a few exceptions to that. So if the property is like a vacation type of property that has vacation qualities, if it's near the water, near the beach, or in the mountains, then it might be possible for you to get an exception to that rule. But for the most part, the property is going to have to be at least 100 miles away from your primary residence. So if that is the case, you can finance it as a second home. In order to do that, you would need 10% for your down payment, and your rate is going to be pretty similar to what you would pay on your primary residence. The kicker is you are going to have to qualify for both your current property that you're living in, whether you own that or you're paying rent somewhere, and the payment that you're going to be paying on the second home. So you are going to have quite a significant amount of income to be able to do that. So that is where a lot of people run into a problem of not being able to qualify for both of those. And that is why I'm presenting this second option of financing the property as an investment property. Now, the downside to doing it this way is you do need a larger down payment. It's going to be 20% instead of 10%. And the rate that you get on that loan is going to be higher than it would be if it were a second home. But you can use your anticipated rental income from the property to offset the payment, so you don't have to qualify for quite as much as you do if you're financing it for a second home, as a second home. So you do have a couple of options there, and I'm definitely happy to connect you with a mortgage professional to talk through those to see what is the best option for you. Tip number two is know the rules and regulations for the properties that you're looking at. So it's not as easy to buy an Airbnb as you would think it is. There are a lot of rules around different properties that govern how long you're allowed to rent a property for. A lot of places don't like the nightly rental kind of thing. A lot of condos don't allow that. A lot of homeowners associations don't allow that. And even if they do, sometimes the town or the county have a restriction on as to how many days per month you're allowed to rent a property or per year. So the main point of this tip is to make sure that you know the rules and regulations that are associated with the different properties that you are considering, because it would really be devastating to buy a property thinking you were going to be able to rent it out on a nightly basis as an Airbnb, to find out later that you're not even allowed to do that. So make sure you're working with a realtor that's able to research that for you and give you the correct information for you to make an informed decision. That's tip number two. Tip number three is do not underestimate your expenses. So when you are looking at an Airbnb, you have to make sure that you take into consideration all the expenses you're going to have associated with the property. Because there are so many rules and restrictions on short-term rentals, you do want to keep in mind you are going to be paying taxes on that income that you get from the short-term rental. In fact, the state of Florida requires short-term rentals to be registered with the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulations. And the reason that they require that is so that they can track the income that you're getting and tax you on it. So not only are you going to be paying that tax, but you're also going to be paying a county tax and some other various taxes. Last time I checked and added them all up, it's about 14% tax that you're going to be paying on the income that you get from the rental property. So not only are you paying that tax, but you've still got to pay property taxes. You've got to pay insurance on the property. You're going to most likely be paying a property management. You're going to have the utilities, of course, which are going to be higher than they normally would be, because when people are on vacation, they surely don't care what the AC is set at. And last but not least, you're going to have probably more repairs and upkeep that you're going to be paying on a property when it's rented out on a nightly basis versus one that is rented long term, because let's face it, when people are on vacation, they're not super careful with your property and they do tend to break things and they just live, hard in the property, and it does take its toll. So you are going to have to budget for more repairs and replacements on things than you would otherwise. So that's tip number 3, is do not underestimate all those expenses. Tip number 4 is be realistic in your pricing. I get people calling me from all over the country thinking that they're going to move to Florida and be able to buy a cheap Airbnb property. They hear how affordable Florida is. And yes, definitely Florida is much more affordable than, say, California or New York. But if you are looking at an Airbnb property, you're not going to find a good one that's going to cost you $150,000 or $200,000. That's just not realistic. Since coronavirus, our median price point has really jumped up. The median price point these days, September of 2021, is about $330,000. But let me tell you, that median price point is more like in a residential, suburban type of neighborhood for the most part. When you're looking at an Airbnb property, if you want one that's going to be profitable and that you're going to enjoy, then you're going to be wanting to look for a property that's either closer to the beaches or close to downtown. And those properties actually tend to be much more expensive. In fact, if you look at the median price point for the Airbnb properties in the greater Tampa Bay area, it's about $550,000. So that is tip number 4, be realistic in your pricing. And this leads me right into tip number 5, is location. So when you're looking for an Airbnb, you really want to pay attention to where the property is. You want it to appeal to guests that are here on vacation. So most people that come to the greater Tampa Bay area aren't looking to go into a suburban area and hang out in a house that's quiet. They want to have access to the beaches. We have the best beaches in the world here, so they definitely want to be able to enjoy that. Or they want to be close to downtown where they can go and enjoy concerts and theaters and sporting events. They want to be in St. Pete where they can go to the pier, or they can go out on a boat. They want to have access to these things. And I'm sure if you're looking to, enjoy the property for part of the year, you're going to want to be in one of those locations as well. So that is tip number 5, is be sure that you pay attention to the location of the property and choose a location that is going to entice people to come to your Airbnb. And last but not least is tip number 6. This is your bonus tip, is to use a reputable property manager. Now, if you're living out of state, you definitely don't want to be dealing with the property on your own. And in fact, it's going to be almost impossible for you to do that. So if you have guests calling you in the middle of the night because the air conditioner stopped working, what are you going to do about it if you're up in New York or Massachusetts or something? You definitely want someone here locally, someone that's close to the property, someone that has contacts that are able to make repairs quickly for you at reasonable prices, and someone that is taking care of your property for you and checking on it periodically as well. So that is tip number 6, is make sure that you're using a good property manager. By the way, in the greater Tampa Bay area, the average price for that is right around $12,000. 12%. I've seen them as low as 10 and as high as 15, but the average is right around 12. So that's what you can expect as far as an expense goes for that at this current time. So don't forget to use a property manager. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are my tips for helping you to buy a property at the beach and have someone else pay for it. If you're dreaming of having your own Airbnb property, please reach out to me. You can give me a call, send me a text, shoot me an email. However you want to communicate with me is fine. I'm always available, and when it comes to moving to Tampa, I've got your back. Would you do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring the little bell so you'll be notified every time I release a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.